food. Andreas will tell you I hoard tea. Enough about me. I want to talk about Phyllis.
Who?
Phyllis.
Phyllis, what have you done now?
Phyllis. I came across Phyllis. She was actually featured on a show called, wait for it,
Hoarders.
Hoarders, yes.
How did I know?
She's a grandmother in her 60s. By all accounts, she is like an upstanding member of her community, and she's working as a certified nursing assistant in Griffin, Georgia, which is in America. However, behind closed doors, Geordie, Phyllis has a secret.
Oh.
She's a doll hoarder.
Oh.
Yes.
My Nana loved to collect dolls.
Did she?
Now, is she a collector or is she a hoarder? What's the difference between being a collector and being a hoarder?
Well, I'm going to ask you this question.
I've just asked you first.
Well, no, I'm going to ask you back. How many dolls do you think you have to go from being a collector to a hoarder?
I think that once you have a room for your dolls, like a whole room, you are a hoarder.
What if they're all just displayed beautifully and you really only have like 30 dolls? Are you a hoarder, or I think that's more a collector?
That's a collector. There was a lady, I don't know if she was a lady, a person who used to live on a ground floor flat in Peckham in London years ago. And she, like my Nana, had walking dolls, you know, the ones that are just big enough. They're about the size of a 3-year-old and they can walk.
Oh my God, that's creepy.
And they all had their hands up, waving to you, all lined up across her living room window, which is exactly like my Nana. And my Nana gave me a doll like that when I was about 3. It was as big as me and it had to be called Susan.
Oh.
No, I like to call it Susan, but Nana said, no, it's called Joan. Everything needed to be called Joan. And I said, no, Susan. For me, the name was Susan. For Nana, it was Joan.
No, Nana, it's not Joan, it's Susan. Oh.
Why don't you call it Joan? Because really, Nana wanted the dolls, you see. I'd go
Yes,
to
of
Nana's and she'd
course.
always have a doll hiding under the bed for me. I was spoilt rotten by that woman.
Well, I mean, you said a room full of dolls.
Their own room.
Yeah, I don't know how many that would be. Maybe, what, a few hundred?
The doll room.
The doll room.
Well, imagine it like you walk in, they're all lining up against the window, waving at the neighbours. Then you've got them on shelves. Then you've got them in wardrobes. Then you've got a bed where they can all sit on them.
Yes.
And some of them are spooky probably as well. I bet there's some ugly ones in there.
Okay.
Some of them have got matted hair. Do you remember Hamble from Play School? She always looked a bit dud.
She was a scruff bag. And what's that name? Hamble. Who's called Hamble?
I wish I knew.
It's a very unusual name. I'm going to throw a number at you because Phyllis, she doesn't have a room full. She has more than $50,000.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
But where does she keep them?
In her house. And the thing is, she has so many that structurally,
The house is made of dolls?
well, it's held up by dolls. The roof is starting to sag and
No.
starting to cave in because of the weight of all the dolls.
No. The weight of the dolls.
Yes, because she's got so many, she hasn't got room to like display them all.
Oh,
so now
God.
they're in the attic. They are in the crawl space up top.
But she can't enjoy them there.
If you've got 50,000 of them, of course you don't even know what you've got. More than 50,000. And the reason she says she has so many is because, and this is a quote from her, she says, when I see their sweet little faces, it makes me happy. It makes me kind of warm and cozy and secure and happy inside. I don't
bless
collect them
her.
because they're valuable. I just enjoy their company. They're like friends.
It's the feeling. It's the feeling she gets. She's addicted to that feeling.
Yeah. And look, as you said, you know, you've got to bear in mind a lot of these dolls are falling to pieces and some don't have clothes on and they're not all pretty little lovely porcelain face dolls, pristine little things. No, they're like plastic shit dolls, you know, but they've got some little face that was smiling at her and she had to buy it. And the other weird thing is that unfortunately she's not enjoying these dolls because for Phyllis, a lot of them are in bin bags that are all tied up. So it's kind of weird because it looks like there's body parts everywhere, bodies in bin bags all over the house.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So according to Phyllis's son, Ed, and he doesn't live with his mum, he says his mum's doll hoarding is like a tidal wave that she can't manage or control or deal with. And it just keeps building and building. And like I said, there are parts of the house that are structurally unsafe because of all of the dolls and the roof is sagging. Phyllis's other son, Bobby, who looks like he's maybe in his late 40s. And he has got learning disabilities and he does live with his mum. He says he doesn't mind the dolls. He likes them. But he says, mum has maybe a few too many.
A few too many? Bobby, there's thousands.
More than 50,000. You think about that. Like, think about just maybe 100 in a room. You would feel like that's intense.
I wouldn't like it.
There's a lot of eyes on you. Basically, the bottom line is Ed, the son that doesn't live with Phyllis, he has said to Phyllis, if you don't get rid of the dolls, he thinks that Adult Protective Services are going to take Bobby away from her.
Yes.
Because if they see how she's living
it's dangerous.
and what she's subjecting her son to through the hoarding and the lack of space, he's worried Protective Services will step in.
Yeah.
Thing is, Phyllis loves those dolls.
More than she loves Bobby. She doesn't care about Bobby.
She does care. You're a bitch. Of course she cares about Bobby, but she loves those dolls.
If it's Bobby or the dolls win every time.
Well, I'll get to who wins in that situation. But because the thing is, like, she doesn't want to throw away a single doll.
Wow.
Her son, Ed, who wants her to get rid of the dolls, she's like, he's a control freak and he just wants to manipulate me into binning these dolls. And threatening her with, losing Bobby. So she's pissed off. But Ed is like, this is tough love. His mum needs help. And he wants to give his mum the help she needs. So finally, she does give in and say she'll try to get rid of some of the dolls just to avoid, involving Adult Protective Services.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would do this, but obviously they've called in a TV show to help, not just a private family thing. Yeah. And they get these cleaners in who are certified organisers, specialising chronic disorganisation.
Okay.
They go in and it turns out there aren't just dolls. There are tens of thousands of stuffed animal toys as well. And they're not just in the house. They're in the shed. There's a whole storage unit outside that's to the brim full. So the cleaners start telling Phyllis that they're going to, get all the dolls out of the shed, out of the storage unit to start with, and put them all on a big tarpaulin in the backyard and show her exactly so she can visualize how many dolls and stuffed toys she really has. And Phyllis is there going, yep. And she's like, oh, that sounds very nice. Because in some ways, I think she's excited about seeing all these dolls again. And they're having to rip open a lot of these bin bags because she has tied them up. You can sort of see Phyllis has no clue that she has a problem.
Yeah.
So the cleaners get started and honestly, it's doll chaos. There are dolls everywhere and they're emptying out all the dolls and toys onto these tarps. The main woman, cleaning woman, she's trying to scope out Phyllis, asking her whether she needs to see every doll before it goes on the tarp, or if she's okay with just having it all piled up and that maybe they could look at seeing whether they can get rid of just a whole lot of them rather than doll by doll. Phyllis can't even answer because she's seen a Cabbage Patch doll and her whole face lights up and she's like, oh my God, there's my Cabbage Patch. And she just becomes really obsessed. Apparently Cabbage Patch dolls are her favourite.
Yeah.
And look, for anyone who actually doesn't know what a Cabbage Patch doll is, they were ugly. They were these pudgy little fabric fucking ugly dolls.
They were just a fad, weren't they?
They really were. And you had an authentic certified one. I think they had like a name on the foot.
On their bum.
Or was it their bum?
I thought it was their bum.
Yeah, maybe it was the bum. And that's how you knew. Like every Cabbage Patch doll was named. They were expensive.
Yeah.
They were probably more than $50 at the time. And that was really spending $200 now more on a doll. We begged Jen, can we have a Cabbage Patch doll? We didn't get them. They were so expensive.
Well, because you need 3 or you can't just have one Cabbage Patch doll in the house. You need one per girl.
Exactly. So we didn't get them. But I think in the end, Steph got one. But I'm not sure if it was the real deal or a fakey one. I can't remember.
I got one, but not till about a year after they were
at their
first
height.
out and everybody was getting one. Yeah.
I didn't even know how they got popular because they're so disgusting.
Ugly. I know. Marketing. That'll be why.
Very good marketing. So going back to poor old Phyllis, she is watching all her dolls get laid out on the lawn. And for her, it's like TV. She's laughing, saying how cute they all are.